Over to you, Sub.
Thank you, Ayush. Could you just please confirm if my voice is loud and clear? Ayush?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit cracking.
A little bit cracky.
Yeah.
Just how about now?
Much better.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Shah Gautam, and I feel extremely excited to welcome you all to the Hoot Welfare Society's webinar on the topic Judge Advocate General (JAG) Eligibility Criteria and Selection Process. We have been conducting webinars to offer career perspectives to law students. We are a community-based organization working for the nourishment of students and society from different perspectives. We are working with a chartered vision of supporting and nurturing meaningful communication through interdisciplinary and cultural projects. We provide opportunities for creative and community-based innovation and aim for collective impact with each project. As a helping group, we have worked towards changing the status of the needy, not just with regards to monetary concerns, but also with regards to their development. And it is on this note that today we discuss the topic of JAG. We have with us two very amazing women. Allow me to introduce them. Our first speaker is Ms. Sammanika Rawat. She's a career coach for law students and lawyers. She has been recommended for JAG 25. Previously, she has worked as a banking and project lawyer. Most of us know her for the extraordinary work she has been doing as the head of the placement team at Law Seco. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she was able to help more than 450 students to secure their internships. I'm one of those. We also have Ms. Apurwa Shah, ma'am. Ma'am has been recommended 4 times by the SSB. She's a JAC candidate for JAC 22, JAC 23, and JAC 26. In the year 2020, she has cleared AFCAT and has been recommended for this examination. Now, if I were to say that a better panel does not exist for you to guide for JAG, then that would still be an understatement. Welcome, Sammanika ma'am and Apurva ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shubh. Yeah.
Hi.
So,
Thank you.
Apurva, I'll briefly tell you, Shubh has also been one of my mentee last year. So last night only I got to know he was introducing us. Thank you so much. So to all the 180 participants who are here, we'll quickly tell how we proceed this conversation is. Now, Apurva has been recommended at least 4 times. So with respect to the nitty-gritties of JAG, she is the one who will be talking about JAG specifically and anything related to law student and legal opportunities. That part and the Q&A part is something which I'll be covering, so that like we both get equal amount of time and there's no disturbance in between, right? So if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat box. I'll continue replying there. Meanwhile, Apurva will brief you through the entire process, right? Will that be okay?
Yes.
Okay. So over to you, Apurva. I'll take care of the chat.
Okay. So
Yes, ma'am. So just to have your opening remarks, ma'am, could you briefly explain what JAG is like?
okay. So JAG, it is one of the service corps in the Indian Army. JAG stands for Judge Advocate General, which is the legal branch of the Indian Army, and anybody who's recruited or who is commissioned as a JAG officer, they help the forces in all the legal matters, in dealing with the legal matters. Now, twice in a year, the forms they are released for JAG, I think in January, February, and then again in May and June, the forms they are released, and respectively the SSBs they also conducted. Now JAG, it is a direct entry, which means that you do not have to appear for any exam, and it is directly on the basis you are shortlisted on the basis of your graduation percentage. And yeah, that is the brief of what JAG is.
Okay, so since you also talked about some bit about the selection process, I want you to take us through the journey of the JAG selection process from the beginning to the end.
Okay, so you start by filling out the forms, as I said. Now the process starts when you start filling out the form. You have to be very particular. You have to be very particular when filling in the particulars, because any mismatch, then you have to submit an affidavit, and I have personally encountered problems because of that. So when you are filling in the particulars, be very particular about the spelling of your name, and in your 10th certificate and the form, it's matching and all of that. Then second, once you're through that, then you get a call letter if you're shortlisted on the basis of your graduation percentage, which is 55%. The qualification criteria is 55%, and then you're called for the SSB. Then, so the entire process is divided into two stages. Stage one, which is the screening in test, and stage two, where the following tests they are conducted. Now, after the stage one, only about 30 to 40% of the candidates they're retained, and the rest they are sent back. So I would start by explaining the stage one. Now, stage one test itself compromises of two tests, I would say. One is the OIR, which is the officer's intelligence rating test, and the second is PPDT, which is the picture perception and discussion test. Now, talking about the officer's intelligence rating test, it is a verbal and non-verbal written test where you are given uh, two set of question papers, and uh, roughly about 40 questions in one and 50 questions in one, and you're given about 20 and 30 minutes time to complete that. And you have to be very quick on your feet. They're not that difficult. It is basically your military aptitude, your reasoning ability, and your verbal ability, and basically it's that. To practice OIR, you can find a lot of material online. You can find a lot of material on YouTube, how to go about it. There are a lot of questions from cubes and dices and all of that. Now, OIR is important. Why? Because when you're getting screened in, so what ranking you get in the OIR test is also very important. For instance, there are three assessors who are assessing you: the psychologist, the interviewing officer, and the group testing officer. Sorry, ground testing. Yeah, group testing officer. So if three of them they don't agree, or two of them they don't agree to you, then they fall back to the OIR, and on the basis of that, then you are screened in or you are screened out. So that is OIR. Do not take it too lightly. You have to prepare it very properly too. Then comes the PPDT test. Now, PPDT test, it is again divided into two parts. First is the picture perception, and second is a discussion test. Now, I would start by discussing what is the picture perception test. The picture perception test is that you're shown a picture, you're shown a hazy, vague picture on a screen, and you are given 1 minute to analyze the picture properly, what you perceive of the picture. Then, after that 1 minute, you are given you are given 30 seconds to analyze the picture. After that, you are given 1 minute to write the details. Details in a sense, the gender of the people you see in the picture, the mood, whether they're in a positive mood, they're in a negative mood, or they're in a neutral mood. And third is the age group which they fall within, and the theme on which you would want to write the story. Now, you're given a sheet of paper, and there is a box on the left top side of the paper, and some space on the right, and then below that. In this box, the moment you see the picture, you have to mark the characters which you see, and one of the main characters which is the protagonist in your story. After marking those, and marking whether he's in a positive mood or negative mood, and the gender, then on right side in one line you write what is the theme of your story. For example, if I see a picture where there are three women standing near a well, so for example, I say there is talking about water scarcity in the village, and how the women they came together to overcome the problem of water scarcity. So your theme would be finding solutions to water scarcity. Then after that, the 1 minute you've written the information, and you have made up a story on your mind, because you are given only 4 minutes to write a story after that. And you have to write a story in about 100 words. And so what the story contains is, it has to contain what is the present happening. Sorry, what is the what is the problem, what is the current happening, and what is the probable outcome of the problem. So that is how you have to divide your story, like how you go about the story. So this is the picture perception test, where you have to perceive. Now when you're shown the story, you will be given all the instructions how to go about the test. What you have to see in the picture is, you do not have to describe the picture. You have to write the first thought, or the first, your reaction which comes to you when you see the picture, and what you perceive, what you're observing. If you're seeing a rural background, you cannot write a story with an urban setting, because that is not what you're seeing. So basically it is a test of perception, what you perceive from the picture. Now once 4 minutes they're over, the sheets they're taken from you, and you'll be divided into groups of 15 to 20 people, and then uh, simultaneously your discussion will be held. Now what happens in the discussion is, you're divided into a group of 20, and you're made to sit in a semicircle. One by one, you're given 1 minute each to narrate the story. You narrate the story, do not add anything which you have not written, and narrate the story very confidently. So, for narrating the story confidently, what you have to do is, the time which you are given after you've completed the story and before you are sent for the discussion, keep narrating the story in your head. Keep narrating it in your head. Do not talk to anybody. Just keep narrating in your head, so that when you go and you have to narrate it, you're very confident because you remember what you've written, and do not add unnecessary things which you haven't written in the story. Then 1 minute you're given to narrate. Everybody narrates, and then they break you into a discussion. Discussion being that all of you have to come to a consensus as to what characters you saw in the story, who is the protagonist, what is the problem, how you're going to deal with the problem, and what is the outcome of the story. So you have to discuss on these points. Now, since it is a group of people and you are given 15 to 20 minutes to come to a consensus, so usually it gets the argument. It's not an argument; it's a discussion. But it gets an argument, and what you have to do is that you have to stay calm. You have to find out the perfect opportunity when there is, even if everybody's silent for like 2 seconds, you have to break in, and then you have to put in your point. To get screened in, first you have to make sure that you narrate the story really well. Second is that you do give 2 to 3 points, 2 to 3 inputs, valid and reasonable inputs, which adds to the story, and everybody is listening to you. Then once if the group is not able to come to a consensus together, usually it happens that you're divided into two groups, and then you have to come to a consensus. I would suggest, whenever you are actually going through the discussion, do not uh, let it do not let it the discussion get heated up, because there have been instances where, because the group did not come to a consensus, so the entire group was not screened in, like even one was not screened in, because we guys did not come to a consensus. Now this is the discussion test, after which after an hour, I think the results they announced, and whoever is screened in, you have to go for documentation check and everything. Be very particular with your documents, and then you have to go for the other test. Now this is stage 1. Stage 2 is conducted in 3 days. It is another 3 tests which are conducted in stage 2. First is the psychological test, second is the interview, and third is the GTO tests. So I'll start with the psych test, because that is what is conducted first. So after you're screened in, that day you will have documentation and you'll be given time to rest. Next day, early morning, you will be your psych test will be conducted. Now the psych test is again a combination of 4 tests. The first test being somewhat like a picture perception test, but the rules they're different here. So the first test is called the first test is called the thematica perception test. Now in thematica perception test, you are shown a picture for 30 seconds, and then you have to write a story in 4 minutes. So now here you do not have to mark the characters, or you don't have to write the gender or the theme, nothing. You just see a picture, You place yourself in the picture. What are you doing in the picture? And then you write a story around it. Like in picture perception test, you have to perceive and you have to observe. Here, you have to place yourself in the picture and then you have to come up with a solution. So 30 minutes you're shown a picture, 1 minute, 4 minutes you have to write the story. You're shown 11 such pictures one by one. 30 seconds picture, 4 minutes for the story, and then you're shown 11 pictures consecutively. Then after the 11th picture, you are shown a blank slide for 30 seconds. Now this is where you can prepare a story. Again, blank slide showed for 30 seconds, 4 minutes you have to write a story. This is to invoke your imagination, what you imagine when you see the blank slide, and what kind of a story you come up with. So this is something which, if you prepare beforehand, it comes handy. So then 4 minutes you write the story. This is the first test of the psych test. Now some advice which I would want to give is that do not try and avoid writing negative stories like rape, murder, theft. Try and avoid that. If you see an accident, then write about it. Do not run away from anything which you see in the picture if you're seeing that. And try and be positive, and don't try and be honest. The whatever you see and whatever you imagine, whatever imagination is invoked, write that, because otherwise there's going to be a mismatch in your personalities. The second test of the psych test is the word association test. Now in the word association test, you are shown 60 words. Each word is shown for 15 seconds and you have to write a sentence on that. So for example, you're shown a word for 15 seconds, and in those 15 seconds, you have to see the word and you have to write a sentence. It is not necessary that you have to use the word in the sentence, but then it is not like, you can skip all the, you don't have to write the word in all the 60 sentences. Now here, what I would suggest is, since you have paucity of time, so do not really get into writing long sentences. Try and keep it short. I would suggest that write more observations, what you've observed. For example, if you get a word table, then you can write table is used to have dinner, something like that, something which is an observation. I would suggest that avoid writing idioms or the famous sayings, because then it shows a lack of creativity. Then do not write something starting with I, like if confident, there's a word confident, do not write I'm very confident because in public speaking. That shows a little self-centric approach. So be write about observation. For example, if there is the word murder, try and write, for example, not voting is the murder of democracy, something like this, observations. So after the WAT is the third test, which is the SRT, situation reaction test. In this, you are given a booklet. It contains 60 problems and you have to write the solution to it. You're given half an hour, which roughly comes down to 15 seconds for one problem. So now, since again you have paucity of time, you have to be very quick. You have to complete the reaction, and you have to keep it very crisp and very short. And do not engage yourself in writing long sentences. For example, if there is a problem that you're in the bathroom taking a shower and a snake comes in, so very quickly you write stay calm, proceed slyly proceed towards the door, move out, latch the door, call a snake catcher, the snake is caught. Remember what the problem is, what problem you have to address. Do not bring outside resources, or do not bring anything from outside. Simple problem, simple solution, very quick solution. And try to attempt as many as possible, but do not be disheartened if you're able to attempt 30 or 40, because this is just because you've attempted less SRTs, it is not a criteria of you not being recommended. Yes, if you attempt more SRTs, then it shows how quick you are with your on your feet, and how quickly you can come up with a solution. But do not get disheartened if you attempt less. Now, the fourth test is a self-description test, in which you have to write 5 short paragraphs about yourself, and you're given 15 minutes. The paragraphs goes as: first is um, what your parents think about you. Second is what your friends or your colleagues think about you. Third is what do your teachers or your employers think about you. Fourth is what do you think about yourself. And fifth is what kind of a person you see yourself as in the future. Now, in these paragraphs, again, 15 minutes, you have to be very crisp and you very precise about when you're writing about yourself. Now, this test is very important because this shows how well you know yourself and how well you've introspected yourself. So start introspecting yourself right now. Then you write about you write the positives about yourself, and then you write it's 1 or 2 sentences, 1 or 2 areas of improvement. Now remember, there is nothing as weaknesses when you appear for the armed forces. There are always areas of improvement. So for example, if you are lazy, so you will you just have to present your areas of improvement also well. For instance, if you are lazy, so you're not going to write I'm a very lazy person. That does not reflect well. So you write there are times when I procrastinate, and you've been working on it or something like that, but then present your areas of improvement also well. So this is the end of the psych test. Now, usually by 12 or 1 in the noon, the psych test ends. The interviews start that very day for some of the people. So interviews, they're divided on 3 days. First is the psych test. Some of you will have your interviews on the day of the psych test, and some on the GTO test. So then coming to interview, which is the second test. Now, when you're screened in, you're given a form to fill. You're given a personal information questionnaire. In that you have to, it's a 1-page form, front and back, and you have to write things like your where you're coming from, your religion, your permanent place, maximum place of residence, then about your parents, your family, their educational qualifications, their income, your education qualifications, your extracurricular activities, your sports achievement, and whether you are in the NCC or not, and your previous SSBs, and hobbies and interests, and all these things, and very short and crisp again. So your interview usually revolves around your PIQ. So be very mindful when you're filling in your PIQ. Do not write anything you do not have the answer to. Do not lie in the PIQ, because the interviewer is going to catch it like this. And if there is a mismatch, in your psych test and what you've written in the PIQ or your SD or your interview, then, straight away you're not going to get recommended. So you have to be honest throughout the process. Then the interview starts. Be very confident, be dressed properly, formally, hair neatly tied, nails cut, shoes polished properly, very prim and proper. Sit there confidently, smile, always have a smile on your face, and it reflects confidence. And then the interviewer will ask general questions, okay, where are you coming from, how did your psych test go. Then he would start by asking a series of questions, and simultaneously, like, okay, I need to know where you're coming from, your 10th, your 12th, who all are there in your family, which subjects did you like, which subjects did you not like, which teacher did you like, which teacher did you not like, and what subjects did you choose in your college, why did you choose it, and he'll ask. So now you have to be very careful and focused when the interviewer is posing these questions at you, because you have to remember the order. It's okay if you forget 1 or 2, if you miss out on 1 or 2 questions in the middle, you can very politely ask, sir, I know I've missed something, can you please repeat the question once again. So he would repeat. Do not feel pressurized, do not be very moved by it, and do not, just stay calm and confident. So you answer your questions, whatever he asks, you answer. And PIQ basically it revolves around your education and your personal life. If you performed well, then what made you perform well. If you did not perform well, why you didn't perform well, and if you have a valid reason, even if you're academically, you haven't performed well, then you're golden if you have a valid reason for that. For example, if it shows that you performed really good in the sports, or you performed really exceptionally when in the extracurriculars, so you can justify it like that. Then, yeah, then your interest in hobbies, for example, if you've written, you like basketball or volleyball or even sports, you've written, you need to know in and out about the game. You cannot just write it for the sake of writing it there. Then after that, there are times when the interviewer doesn't ask anything about the current affairs, international news, national news, nothing. And there are times where it might be concentrated on that. So right now, start getting yourself updated about what is happening in and around the country. And not only updated, like, not just for the sake, okay, I know this is happening. Know why it is happening. Know what kind of, how is it going to affect you. For example, if something is happening in USA, so how is that affecting you? There were elections, a new president came, what are the relations now we have with Joe Biden, and how is it going to be? So you have to know everything well. Then again, there might be questions on, now, very important, you're coming for, if you're going for army, navy, air force, whatever you're going for, know about the forces, know everything about the forces. Like, what are the recent acquisitions, or what are the indigenous weapons being developed, what are the latest fighter jets which have come in, or the latest hepters which have come in, or what is DRDO doing, or if there is an exercise being held by the Indian Army, or between which countries are the exercises being held. So know this. This reflects that you're serious about, about joining the armed forces, and you know what it entails. Then coming to, since it is a JAG entry, I'm sure a lot of people, you have the question, whether there is questions related to military law or legal. So there are no questions per se with respect to military law, because that they are going to polish you with, and they're going to teach you. And military law is not taught generally in law schools. What you need to know is generally about the courts martial, or the kinds of courts martial, or what is the hierarchy of JAG officers, who is the JAG officer right now, and the highest rank, like major general is the highest rank a JAG officer can hold. What does a JAG officer do? A JAG officer advises the JAG officer, like who is the main JAG officer, he advises the chief of army staff, and the other officers in the JAG department, they advise their respective seniors with respect to legal matters. And if there is a courts martial being held, so there is, in general courts martial, there is one JAG officer who sits in the during the general courts martial, and in the summary courts martial and summary trial, there is particularly no JAG officer. So these are the questions you need to know about the JAG department. And then on legal, now if there may be some case, some judgment, a very important judgment which the Supreme Court has passed, you need to know about that. You need to know about the basic articles of constitution. And maybe you're not asked any of those questions, but you may be asked. So you need to know that you need to have basic knowledge of law where you can speak. But if there is a question posed to you and you do not know the answer, you do not have to be perplexed, and you do not have to be tense and under pressure. You just say, I'm sorry, sir, I am not sure about that answer, and I'll get back to you on that. And please, when you go back, then get an answer to that question, because it may happen that in the conference you might be asked. So this is what in the interview entails. Coming to the third test, the GTO test. Now, GTO tests, usually, people think it's all about physical, and you have to be very active and all of that. People who are not that active, you should start, with physically being active, but then it is not something which they, majorly judge you on, because that is something which they can change in the academy easily. So group tests, GTO tests, they're usually to judge you as an individual and what you are in a group. So GTO is a series of 9 tests again. In the first day, usually 6 of these tests are conducted, and in the second day, another 3 they are conducted. So the GTO is one assessor who spends the most time with you, and it is spread over 2 days. So usually in the first day there are 6 tests which are conducted: the group discussion, the group planning exercise, the progressive group task, the half group tasks, group obstacle race, and the lecturate. Now, group discussion. You start your GTO with group discussion. In the group discussion, you are given 2 topics. Now, one topic you are given, the first topic which you are given, in that also you are given 2 topics and you have to choose one. Like you're given one topic and you are given 3 options to that, and around that you have to discuss. For instance, um, at present, what do you think India needs to spend most on? Defense, infrastructure, or education? Now you have to decide on this, and it's a discussion. It is a very friendly discussion. You do not have to be very dominating and hostile. You have to be very friendly. You have to give everybody a chance to speak. For this, please read a lot, prepare yourself well, because you just cannot beat about the bush. You have to keep some very sensible, very on the points. So you have to read a lot for this. Then the second is another topic you are given, just like something. uh, it's a fairly simple topic, and again with 3 options, and you're given 15 to 20 minutes to discuss. In this, you are not given an option. This is the group discussion. This is the first test of the GTO series. The second test is the group planning exercise. In the group planning exercise, there is a board. There is a huge board, and there are certain structures marked on it. Basically it's a map. It's kind of a map of a village, and there are trains, waterways. There's a forest area, and locations they are marked. And then you are given a paper in which there is a problem, in which it will be given, you are a group of 7 to 8 people, however how many ever you are a group of. And then you are given certain problems, and then you're given 5 minutes to go through the paper, and then you are given 10 minutes to write the solution, individual solutions first. So in the group planning exercise, you have to prioritize. Okay, for example, they're given 4 problems, like a man was hit in the head and he's bleeding profusely. And then there is another that somebody's going to get kidnapped. And the third problem is that the cattle, they've the dacoits, they're going to rob a train. And the fourth is the dacoits, they're going to free the cattle. So then you have to see how you prioritize the problems, which now you're going to solve the problems simultaneously, but the priority of the problem. Then again, you break your group, like okay, 2 will go here. This will be an individual idea first. 2 will go here, 2 will go there, and then you have to go about the problem. Then after you've written the solution, you are given 15 minutes as a group to come to a consensus. So you have to decide that how many people they're going to be in the team, how many teams they're going to be dispatched, the transport they're going to use, and how much time it's going to take, and eventually where they're going to meet. Because the eventual the final task is also to be completed, that you have a volleyball match to attend, the group, and finally you have to head there, so at a meeting point. So this is how you go about a GPE. The third is progressive group task. Again, there are a lot of videos available on YouTube, and for you to get a better understanding of the obstacles or the tasks you're given. Now in a progressive group task, you are given 45 to 50 minutes to complete 4 sets of obstacles. As a group, you are given props like a plank, a bully, rope, and a load, and you're given structures, and you have to use these props, the bully, plank, and everything, to cross over from one end to other end with the help of the team. And you cannot leave anybody behind. It is a teamwork. And so basically there is a concept of cantilever or a fulcrum. Like if there is an obstacle like this, here a pole and here, so a fulcrum means you have to balance, like there has to be a support, and then there has to be a stopper to balance it, to balance whatever the plan. And then that is how you basically most of the places the concept of fulcrum or a cantilever is applied. Now when you go through YouTube and you see the obstacles, you'll get a better understanding of how the obstacles are. Then if some of you, you're not able to perform well in the PGT, because again, it's a lot of people try to dominate. So then there is half group task. Now here your group is divided into two parts, and then you have to do it in two smaller groups. And there, if you hadn't performed in the PGT, here is your chance to actually perform well. Again, it's you're given half an hour, and it's a similar kind of structure which you have to pass, and similar kind of props which you are given, and you have to go through that. Then comes the GP. Okay, then comes the group obstacle race, which is also known as the snake race. It is all fun, good. As a team, you have to. There are a lot of obstacles which you have to pass as a team, and you're given a snake as a load which you have to keep with yourself. And it is just a lot of fun. And still here the GTO does test you how you're with the group, how you're helping them, how scared you are of the heights, because some of the obstacles they are at a height and all of that. It's a very fun race. Then is the lecturate. Now in the lecturate, it's like an extempore where you're given a pamphlet. There are 4 options given. You're given 3 minutes to prepare, and you're given 3 minutes to speak. Now again, you have to have a very good knowledge of everything. Any topic can come. There are 4 topics. There is some, so it, and the topics also, it's different. What do you say, degree of difficulty. For example, one might be ASEAN, the other might be what is my hobby. So you have to select whatever topic you select. Make sure whatever topic you take, speak sense. Even if it is you're speaking on my hobby, speak sense, speak very confidently, try and make a point, and try and organize the what you're speaking. For example, if I got a topic of Indo-US relations, then I would start by saying, good morning, so and so, this is my topic. I would like to break my speech into 3 parts: introduction of the current Indo-US situation. Then in the middle, I would be what is the solution, or what are the possible steps which can be taken to enhance the relations. And the third would be conclusion. So this is how you go about the lecturate, and try and finish it in 3 minutes. And that so this is the first day. All the 6 tasks, they're done. Breaking to the second day, there are 3 tasks which are at hand. One is the individual obstacle task. Now, this is where you require agility, you require physical strength, you require concentration. And because you are given 10 obstacles on the field, and you are given, this is an individual obstacle task. So individually, one by one, you have to do it. 10 obstacles you're given a time of 3 minutes, and you're given time to strategize how you are going to go about the obstacle. And then, you make a plan of which obstacle you're going to go and attempt first. Now there's some obstacles which are on a height, and which might cause injury. So be very careful. I've seen people getting hurt, so you have to be very careful when going for individual obstacle tasks. Be very fit and focused and very attentive of what the instructors they have to say there. It is also a fun task, but you have to be a little physically fit for that. Then second is the command task. Now this is one of the most important tasks, I would say, of the GTO series, because in this you are made a commander, and individually the GTO is going to judge you. Till these in these 7 he was judging you as a group in the first 6. Now here individually he's going to judge you. So in the command task, you are called individually, you are given an obstacle, and you are given props like the PGT and the HGT, just like that. And you are allowed to call 2 subordinates, whoever from your group you want to select. And then you are the commander, they are your subordinates. They cannot help you. They are only there to help you with the prop and to listen to your instructions. So here it is seen, how are your leadership skills? How do you manage 2 subordinates? And how well do you, work under pressure? Because the GTO is going to try to put you under pressure that, commander, you're running out of time. Or commander, okay, this obstacle is broken. Okay, you do not have a rope. You do not have this. Do not at all get, tensed about it. Do not get stressed. You stay calm, stay confident, and keep doing it with a smile on your face. And before the command task, when the GTO calls you, he would normally converse with you, ask you certain questions of where you're coming from, your hobbies, your education, and all of that. Very pally conversation. Then last is the full group task, which is just, it's like HGT only, just one task you have to do, and as a group, and it's not very difficult, it's very simple, and it's just like a conclusion of the GTO series. So these are the 3 tests which you have to undergo when you go through an SSB procedure. After which, if you have interviews, you'll go for interviews. Otherwise, the next day is the conference. Now in the conference, all the assessors, they're sitting in the uniforms, all the 12, 13 assessors who were assessing you. Do not get intimidated. Be very properly dressed, prim, proper again. Usually the conference lasts for 30 seconds, and they just want to see, because these assessors, they meet for the first time, and then they just want to see that, okay, this is the person we're talking about. And you have to they'll ask you, okay, how was your stay here, and how do you rank yourself in the group, or how is the food here, do you have any suggestions, and all of that. Usually this happens. But if you're a borderline candidate, for example, if the psych has passed you, the IA has passed you, but the GTO didn't pass you, so they might pose questions, and it might be a little intimidating, but do not just stay there, relax, just think of it, as an interview. Keep your focus on the person who is asking the questions, and just keep answering honestly, and that's about it. And after the conference is done, after about 1 hour, the results, they are announced, and whoever is recommended, they're kept back for the medicals, and who's not, they're sent back. So this is just, a brief about how the entire procedure of the SSB is held in the 5 days you're there. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Shubh, are you still there?
So, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was addressing the chat. A lot of people got
Yes.
dropped out. So we've done the detailed session on IG also. The video is
Hello.
there on my IGTV. Shubh, can you hear me?
Hello, could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but can you hear me? Apurwa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just saying that anybody who got dropped out or joined us late, and if you've missed any part of the session, just check the IGTV video. Apurva and I had done an informal session there also. So the recording is there on my Instagram ID, and that's why I've kept it public only, so that anybody can go through the session. And there were a few questions. I've almost addressed all of them. Sapna is asking whether English is compulsory or not. See, Sapna, they officially are okay even if you speak in Hindi or in English. However, since you're applying for an officer entry, they would prefer if you can speak in English. So, like during your group discussions, they say that if you want to speak in Hindi, you're free to speak in Hindi. But then they say that it's better if you can quickly come back to English. So if you still have like time, just like work on your communication skills. It won't take a lot of time though, especially for the spoken English part. Ram is asking, what's my IG? My full name is Sammanika Rawat. So you just search that and you'll get. Otherwise, the ID is the Humble Pahadi. A lot of people are asking me questions related to eyesight and medical fitness. Please check the UPSC guidelines because we may not remember those specifications, and it depends from entry to entry. So if you're applying for a ground duty, because JAG is a ground duty and non-combat role, so the like criterias are different. So just check those criterias, and then you can see whether you are eligible or not. If you guys have any questions, just shoot them in the chat box, or like you can unmute yourself and ask.
Ma'am, can we take up questions like they can raise their hands and we can allow them to mute themselves?
Whatever. So, yeah.
Okay. Participants, you can raise your hand and I'll enable to unmute yourself.
I think Govind has raised his hand.
Yeah, there are many people who are raising their hands actually.
Govind,
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Hello.
Govind, you are audible.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask, I will Would be an advantageous position if I score more than 55% in my law degree?
Sorry, but we are
Uh,
unable to hear you.
I understood his question. So he's asking whether there will be an advantage if he scores more than 55% in overall graduation. See, Govind, it depends on like whether you. So they don't care too much about your grades. The benefit might be there with respect to the Indian Navy JAG entry because there are only one or two seats and they are not very regular with the opportunity. So there your percentage might, though officially they don't say it, but there it might become a criteria in the shortlisting part because they don't invite everybody.
Yeah. No, but you have to score more than 55% for Army JAG. Like if you're less than 55, you will not be allowed to sit for it.
No, no, as in he meant like if he's kind of the topper or like in top 10 of
Scoring
class,
more than
he had
would
grades.
be like set aside.
Yeah. The
It might
only
help in the
Well,
interview actually.
uh, one thing more wanted to ask, what if a person is from NLD background? Like, would he get some more advantages, or like it's same as a non-NLD student?
Not at all. Like they aren't
It's
bothered
again
too
also.
much because I'll tell you what. So all these interviewing officers, like almost 99% of the time, they are not from legal background, right? So they don't know much about law or law colleges. Like
Yeah.
even if they know, they are not much bothered. Your selection process is with respect to the interview stage is entirely dependent on what you write in your PIQ form. PIQ is your personal information questionnaire, which they'll ask you to fill. And from there, when they ask you questions, how you answer those questions. Like you're talking about good marks in your graduation and all. Now that the only advantage you'll have is that anybody who does not have very good grades, they do question them as to like they have to kind of justify why they didn't have very good grades, right? There's no marks deduction for that, but yes, they do question that. Oh, like
Yeah.
I see you. You went amongst like you didn't have very high grades. So what were you doing during your college days? And then you have to justify your answers, right?
Okay.
So
I would
even
like
I.
yeah. You complete. I would like to add to that.
So, so one thing more, should I join any coaching classes for the JAG? Like, do you have?
So both.
Before that, sorry, I'm so sorry. I would just like to, there's something which I want to say. So because I missed out when I was speaking. So so when you go for JAG entry or any entry, any of the SSB, be it tech, be it NCC, be it JAG entry, you are not judged on anything else other than your personality and the 15 officer-like qualities which they are looking for. So Google what are the 15 officer-like qualities, OLQs, and you will know these are the 15 qualities which they are looking for. Now, when you go for your SSB, try and put these qualities better in, show it better when you're performing any of these activities. For example, responsibility, your affective intelligence, your emotional quotient, all of these, you just have to show them well, showcase them well so that they know, okay, these are the qualities which you have. So all of you go through the 15 officer like qualities.
When your voice is big.
Govind, I request everyone else to unmute themselves while a speaker is speaking.
So they cannot unmute themselves until I allow them.
Yeah,
Because due to Govind here only.
okay, so Govind, could you please mute yourself?
Ma'am, you can
Already
introduce.
muted.
Yeah, okay. The thing is, we have a set of questions and which were sent to us by the participants, and I feel that most of the questions were already covered by Apurva ma'am, and also the questions that were being asked in the chat, they were also to some extent covered by Sammanika ma'am. There are certain specific questions which are still left. I will first try to ask those questions, and if you're left with any time at the end of the session, we will open the floor for questions by the participants. So in that regard, ma'am, there is this question that is any preference given to district or divisional level certificate athletes?
Oh, Sammanika, are you answering that?
Yeah. So any kind of see, there's no specific criteria whether you come from any particular college, whether you come from any particular sports background or any kind of background. There are no added marks for that. It all depends on how you address and how you're able to convince the other person that yes, during your graduation time or during your school time, other than just studies, you were also participating in extracurricular activities. It could be anything. Since most of us are applying for just give me 1 minute, there's some construction one going on. Yeah. So since you're applying for a non-combat role, even if you've participated in moot courts or essay writing competition or any kind of competition, that will add value. So in the PIQ form, you just Google it. The sample will be available online. On the back side of the form, there is a table where you have to list out all the different kind of activities you are engaged in. And then below that, they also ask about the extracurricular activities. So there is a column where you have to specify if you like receive any particular award or not. There, if you mention that you've been a like district court or a national level, district level or a national level player, that would like give you like added advantage during the interview session, because interview is like a combination of your HR questions and technical questions. Now here in JAG, the person asking you questions is not from legal background, so you have the advantage that he may not know a lot of things about law, right? But at the same time, the disadvantage is that he can ask you question from anywhere. So it happened with me that I came from corporate background and he asked me questions purely from constitutional background. There was somebody else who came from constitutional background. He didn't ask her questions from constitution, rather he asked her from maybe international relations or something else, right? So it entirely depends on their mood and what was the current news which they read in the newspaper in the past few days, from where they'll pick. So at that point of time, if you are not very thorough with your legal updates, and then you give the other person an added an opportunity to ask you questions from non-academic part, whatever kind of activities you've done, so that will definitely help you in like taking the conversation to the next level.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to add to that. Anybody with
Yes,
the
ma'am.
sports qualifications, if you have district or national certificates, so Navy from time to time they release vacancies for sports also. Like this time for law and sports, both vacancies they were released by Navy. So if you have a law degree and if you have national and district certificates, then you can, with the law entries, you can also apply for the sports entries. So in Navy, maybe you can get this advantage of having certificates.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that answers the question. We will move towards questions with regards to the preparation. My first question is that many students want to know that how can they prepare for JAG or AFCAT during their days in law school? And what are the things that they're supposed to do if they have chosen this particular career field?
Should I take this?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So, like the main suggestion is that you have to focus on building those OLQs. But when we talk about OLQs, ऐसा नहीं है कि like you read one book or like there is some syllabus you have to mug up and you'll get points. It's not like that. It's a part of your personality. Do you have those traits in your personality or not? Just like Google those 15 OLQs, you'll get the list. Ask your friends how do they like rate you based on those 15 OLQs? Like, what are the traits within your personality do they feel you already have? And if you don't score really well, then what you can do is simply read a lot and like watch YouTube videos about leadership skills. Okay. Now, why we say leadership skills is because you know that in army, when you're joining as an officer, you are treated as a leader. But it is not just about leadership. Like when we go for SSBs, we see a lot of freshers coming in, like talking a lot about leadership, leadership, leadership. It's actually the sub components of leadership which are defined as OLQs, right? So leadership and team spirit. And if you don't have these, then inculcate those like habits where you can build these skills. Like for example, participate in those events where you can work in a team. In law school, what happens is there is a common word CT, बहुत चलता है कि cutthroat. Everybody is trying to like make brownie points because you're thinking about your placements. But how much have you performed as a team, and then how much did your team appreciate your efforts will let you know whether you're a good team player or not. And team player is actually the person who is valued a lot during your SSB, because those traits will clearly show. So there are a lot of people who are into just like they are amazing individual players, but when it comes to performing as a team, they fail, and that's why they don't get very good marks from the GTO in the 2 days GTO exercises. Right, that is one thing. The next thing which Apurwa tells everybody is to read news, because there is no competitive exam in India where you can skip the GK part. right? So even if you might be very scared of GK, but see, you guys did prepare for GK for your CLAT exam and other law entry exams, right? Now here the advantage is that it's not UPSC paper where they'll directly ask you, tell me what is happening between, say, Iran and US or any two countries, right? They make it a very open-ended question. They'll ask you, tell us five things what are happening in India and five things outside India, or something like that. Number could be vary. Like it could be they could simply say what is happening in India, or they could say like seven things or five things, right? So don't focus too much on the number. So make a list of at least 10 national news and 10 international news which you're aware of, and then just do your in-depth research on those things. Like for example, if you mention them about say oil spill in some part of the ocean, right? Now, which country's ship was it? Where was it heading towards? What are the relations between those two countries? What are the relations of India with those two countries? Because why is it? Why are you affected? Like as Indian, how are you getting impacted? So they will take you to the international relations. So for international relation news is something they definitely grill you a lot, but they will not ask you direct questions. They will pick the keywords from whatever you answer them, right? So for that, you should be aware about GK, and GK is something you can't prepare overnight. So Apurva always says that like read newspapers, and the next thing what you can do is other than that, maybe read a lot about the interviews and about the field, like about army. There are a lot of documentaries. If you guys have like Discovery Plus access or Netflix or like all these OTT platforms, all of them will have one or the other documentary. Discovery has a lot of documentaries about armies and its different regiments and all. So just be thorough about it, because the more you're aware of, the more confident you will be, and you'll be able to answer these questions really well. Like the very basic question, like what are the different roles of a JAG officer? They say, like people go there, and on the day of conference, they ask the officer that, sir, please tell us what are the roles of a JAG officer. That is something you have to do the homework beforehand, and you have to figure it out. And when they ask you the hierarchy of JAG, like JAG, the actual JAG officer, the CJAG, Chief Judge Advocate General, is the one who is the legal advisor to the army chief, right? But not everybody in the rank is JAG. The entry is called JAG entry, right? So what are the different stages? At what rank? What kind of work do you do? This is the homework you have to do. So for that, all that you can like prepare beforehand, your notes and everything.
I'll address the AFCAT wala part.
Yes, ma'am.
So AFCAT, now see, in the college, as Sammanika said, it's a personality test. SSB, it's usually a personality test where you have to polish the OLQs which you already have and work on gaining the OLQs which you might lack in. But JAG is a direct entry, so you do not really have to appear for any examination. AFCAT, there is an examination where you are asked 100 questions on 4 categories, which is, I think, verbal ability, general awareness, numerical ability, and military aptitude. There are a lot of books available where you can practice it. So AFCAT, it is not a very difficult exam, to be very honest, and you have to try and score as many marks as you can. So you get a lot of books. Then there are a lot of sessions available on these online educational platform these days. Upgrade or Grade Up. They have a lot of packages available for AFCAT and all of that. So you can start preparing from that also. They're actually very good. Then with respect to OIR also, online there are many YouTube videos available of upgrade or grade up only, and for GPE and GD and all of this also. So YouTube also, you can prepare. But if you want to understand the procedure well, just the procedure well, I would suggest that you go through the SSB interview book of Dr. N.K. Natarajan. This, it will make you have a better understanding of the procedure, what the procedure entails. And during the college also, side by side, you just keep going through the procedure, be physically agile, go out for a run, keep physically fit, basically start living like an officer, be disciplined, get up in the morning, do all of these things. If you want to be an officer, you have to start living like one. So these are the small changes which you can make, during your college also. And AFCAT side by side, you can study, because, it is not actually, it's not that difficult, but practice as much as you can, And there is per se no difference between an AFCAT SSB, a Navy SSB, or an Army SSB. all the three SSBs, they are absolutely the same, maybe one or two obstacles they are different in the first SSB, otherwise there is nothing different in that.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. Moving forward to the next question, ma'am, we want you to answer that. You already, like, to some extent you already mentioned that how SSB, we have to take SSB and all, but I want you to answer that, do we need to join any academy, and is it possible that self preparation is enough for SSB examination? If yes, then could you please tell us that how much time is required for self preparation and some of the books that you went through while you were preparing?
Shubh, I'm sorry to intervene here. There is a disclaimer with respect to Natarajan book. Like Apurwa recommends it, and I am highly against recommending that book because the book clearly has printed out like some of the actual sketches of previous SSBs. The only issue what happens is when you've seen a sketch and you have some story in your mind, then whenever you'll see the sketch again during your SSB, what happens is you end up writing the same story which you had read either during your preparation from the book, or whatever story might have come in your mind at the time when you looked at the image for the first time. So during your SSB, they do not want you to have any kind of preconceived notion. And it happened with my friend. She went for the Coast Guard entry, and there was this laboratory picture which is there in the Natarajan book, which was shown, and everybody other than her, like the entire group, wrote the same story. Like सबने दवाई बनाई, सबने उसको award दिलाया, और सबने किसी ना किसी like बीमारी का cure किया, right? And that's why the entire group got washed out other than her, because she hadn't seen that like story, the image, so she had some fresh perspective, right? So that's the only disadvantage with that book. Otherwise, it's a fabulous book.
Yeah, you just have to acquaint yourself with the procedure. That's it. What the procedure entails.
The stories part, or what you can do is like SSB Cracks website is really good. There are a lot of interviews posted there, and there are a lot of other previously recommended students also who've started their either YouTube pages or like online channels. The only problem with getting too much information is that you'll get overflooded. Like that happened with me because I was always inclined towards this field. So since college days, I used to like watch a lot of videos. उससे क्या हो गया that my entire brain got like messed up with a lot of information, and then I got screened out twice. Then I went to Olive Greens and I told the first day I told Colonel Sir there that like Colonel Chair that sir, like other people might have come here to learn, but honestly I've come here to unlearn whatever I've learned from the online sources, right? So that's the only disadvantage. Otherwise, just the basic procedure and all you can check. And with respect to GTO task, what you can do is if you are not having enough money to enroll yourself in a coaching program. So there are two things you asked for preparation. One is personality development, because there are we all are fighting for those limited seats, like 2-3 seats for women and like not more than 7 seats for men, right? So you all are struggling so much to get those 2 seats and to be in the merit on top 2. At that point of time, you do not want to lose your marks because you didn't have very strong communication skills, or like there was some element in your personality which led you lose those 2 marks or like 3 marks or whatever marks, because of which you lost that top 2 position, right? So for that, focus a lot on your personality development. Second is about having a positive psychology. Positive psychology is the word you will constantly read and like come across whenever you talk about SSB. Now, positive psychology is something you cannot develop overnight. It is like how you behave and how you perceive things in your everyday life, right? How do you react to the situations in your everyday life? How can you make the look at the positive side of situations, whatever is happening in your life or whatever has happened? Because trust me, guys, most of the people who go for SHB come from lower middle class or middle class families, right? So they all have some or the other form of their baggages. Could be emotional baggages, could be any kind of baggages they have in their life, right? They are struggling, they're having some issue. So do not let that story define who you are. Your stories of happiness, sadness, and other emotions should be entirely different from who you are as a person. So if you're able to carry that kind of persona, you'll very easily sail through. Lastly, with respect to preparing, so if you can't afford a coaching, what you do is check. There are a lot of videos online on YouTube which talk about the GTO tasks, because there's something called cantilever. It was taught in 11th, 12th physics classes, but most of you might have forgotten. It's a very simple process. Basically ये है कि अगर आपका ये लोड है तो आप इसको किस तरीके से सेट करोगे कि ये गिरे ना. लाइक अगर आपको अगर अगर ये आपका लोड है, दिस इज कॉल्ड फट्टा, ठीक है. आपको अभी इसको किसी जगह फंसाना है. लाइक आई फिक्स्ड इट लाइक दिस. नाउ इफ आई पुट माय फीट हियर, ये ऐसे करके गिर जाएगा, राइट. तो इसको मैं कहाँ पे सपोर्ट दूं सो दैट दिस डजंट गो डाउन. इफ आई फिक्स्ड इट फ्रॉम वन साइड एंड इफ द अदर साइड इज द लूज एंड, then where exactly should I place my support? That's the very simple concept of cantilever. तो कई लोगों को नहीं समझ में आता है. और SSB के अब में क्या होता है, if you are allotted in a group of repeaters, you will see कि repeaters constantly cantilever 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 fulcrum 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 बोल रहे होते हैं और आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा कि कौन सी भाषा चल रही है. So for that you can watch these YouTube videos where retired SSB officers have explained these concepts, and in their academies they've shown how students like solve those GTO ground what do you say जो भी problems होती हैं basically obstacles. Yeah. So that's the only preparation you need. Do not prepare too much for your psychology. बस उसका भी positive psychology रखो अपनी. And interview के लिए like you should know who you are and why you applying for that particular place. That's it.
Apurwa ma'am, would you like to add something?
Yeah. So see, I mean, coaching, whether you want to join or not, that would be completely your decision. But I am just going to, tell you what my personal experience was. I was recommended on my first attempt and I did not attend any coaching. I actually went only through so for me, it was a personality test. I did not go in with any other, any guidance or anything. I just knew it is a personality test. There are certain tests which are going to be handed over to me and I have to answer those, complete those tests. I went through the N.K. Natarajan book just for understanding the procedure. I got a fair idea of what the procedure is. And since I've always had a habit of reading a lot, and so that came in handy. I did not know that, for SSBs, like this is required, but that came in handy. And physically also, I've been always keeping myself fit. So that also came in handy. So that is just a kind of lifestyle which I was living. So maybe there were certain qualities which I had, but I went and I got recommended, but I did not make it to the merit. Why? Because again, I could have showcased my skills or my qualities in a better manner, which I did not know because there was nobody to guide me. But then again, my personal feeling is that, if you are actually guided by a person, then you might not be your own self, your own personality. Because coaching, after I was recommended for, 2-3 times, then I went for a coaching to understand why I'm not making it to the merit. But the coaching, it, personally, it did not help me as much. But if, I would suggest that if you can personally work on yourself and, yes, Sammanika was absolutely right. Do not, fit a lot of, do not fix yourself with a lot of knowledge or a lot of things which, a lot of information ki, you have to do this, you have to do that. No. Basic straight jacket, just see what the procedure is. Introspect what you lack, what are your strengths, do a SWOT analysis, do all of that, and do not give up. I've had 6 attempts, and it was finally in the 5th attempt when I understood the procedure and I understood what has to be done. So a lot of patience is required, only because the vacancies are very less. Otherwise, if you're recommended, you are joining the academy, but since the vacancies are so less, so yes, you have to be the best of the best. But if you feel that just because you go to a coaching and you're going to make it to the top 3, it requires a lot of patience, it requires a lot of practice, and it requires a lot of understanding of what is happening. So my personal opinion would be, work on yourself, give yourself time, work really hard, sincerely, honestly, and go for it. And even if you don't make it through, keep trying for it if you have the heart for it and if you want to go for it. That is something which I would suggest.
Okay. Just a quick question. Can a final year student apply for the post of JAG?
Sammanika? Okay, I'll answer that. So yes, a final year student can apply, but only final year as in, given, so they haven't received the degree or they they have appeared for the final exam.
Presumably, they haven't received the degree, so they're in the final year, not yet graduated. And
Okay, but they've appeared for the final semester. The results are out.
let's say they're still in the final year, and they're not graduated.
So usually what happens is that you have to have the criteria is only 55%. So even if you do not have a degree, they would allow you to sit if your 10 semesters cumulative is more than 55%. But there have been instances where I have seen where the result is not out and they have accumulated the 9 semesters ka percentage and allowed you to sit. But then that again depends on SSB to SSB. They might be very strict and they say no, you can't. You can fill in the form and you can give it a try, but then that is something which I'm not very sure of, and you can actually call the
Okay.
the recruitment and ask them. But you know go for it. I mean, apply even if you haven't received the degree, even if you have 10 semesters percentage, that too you can definitely go for.
Yeah, because see, all they care about
Yes,
is
ma'am.
you should be having if you don't have the final degree, you should be having your provisional degree, and where they can like calculate. So on the first day, now it depends from center to center. Like in army, they do the calculations on the first day. In AFCAT, they like let you be a part of the first stage and then do the calculation part and all. So during the calculation time, when they're like checking your documents, you should have a proof that whatever percentage you are saying that this is the overall percentage which you have, you should be having like more than 55%, and that should match. So that cannot happen if you don't have your 10 semester marks. So that's why they say overall percentage. However, the same rule does not apply in AFCAT. So in AFCAT, you can be studying in your final year, appearing and appear for the AFCAT entry. So that is the advantage you get.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think that answered the question. We have answered, I think, most of the important questions with regards to the preparation, the selection process, the criteria. The primary agenda of this webinar is, I think, over. But there is one important question which I think should be, should be discussed, which is that what are the general roles and what are the responsibilities of a JAG officer in army? What are they supposed to do?
So that's a detailed question, and like trust me, it will take a lot of time to answer this. Your timeline will get over. What's simple here?
Okay.
Just go back and Google it. There are a lot of interviews of JAG officers which are published there, and you'll get those details. If still you don't get it, then you can like anybody who wants these answers can reach out to us on LinkedIn, right? Because it will save your time. Like otherwise, the session will get extended way too much.
Okay, in that case, we'll open the floor for questions from the participants. There are many hands which are being raised. So those who want to ask the questions, raise their
Sorry.
hands.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Yeah.
questions in the chat box also. I'll quickly
Yeah.
like answer them in one line. So probability of getting JAG branch through CDS entry, Nivya. See, whatever entry you're joining through, then transfer to JAG entry will only depend on the vacancy. However, probability I think is decent enough. So like if you're not getting through the JAG entry, and even if you are, like even if you get recommended and you get merit out, please till the time your age like is favoring you, apply for as many entries as you want, because on the day of the interview when you and especially when you are a repeater, whether you are a recommended or a conference out person, that does not matter. But on the day of interview, if you say that like I'm highly dedicated to join Indian Army, and then they see that you've applied only through one entry, and in 6 months you just do nothing but wait for that next form of yours, then they don't buy that. However, if you apply from multiple entries, and then you can get recommended there and may not join, right? But at least apply so that you can like prove it to them that you're so passionate about the uniform that you don't care too much about which entry you are getting through, and rather you're more bothered about like joining the Indian Army, right? So that will definitely help you. Give advantage given to first time SSB people.
Sammanika.
Yeah.
CDS, even if you join through CDS, you can shift to JAG only after 10 years of serving in the army through the CDS. And yes, subject to the vacancies, but after 10 years. So it's anyway short service commission 10 plus 2 plus 2. So doesn't it, it is not that fruitful, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
So there are many participants who have raised their hands. Since we have a lack of time, I would ask two of the participants to ask their questions. and we will unmute them. So I'll first ask Ria Badana, followed by Amrita Pradasni to ask their questions. Ria will unmute you. Ria, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
I am Ria Badana, and thank you for the opportunity and the valuable inputs that you gave me. Ma'am, I was a fresher in the JAG 26th entry, and I got conferenced out. And my question is a little bit specific towards somebody who got recommended. Ma'am, in the GP exercise, that particular lady was she volunteered herself to narrate the story, and when she did, she went completely against the story that was agreed upon, and everybody was pretty shocked that if we can do that or if we can't do that, but in the end she got recommended, so that must have some sort of weightage to it. So that is what I wanted to ask you, like if we can go against the group. I mean, everybody which I have asked this question to has told me that that is a fairly different approach as to how she got recommended. But yes, ma'am, what is your take on it?
So Ria, the same thing happened with me in my Bangalore SSB. Like the person who narrated the story actually briefed what the group story was, and then the GTO asked if anybody has an objection, and this person raised her hand and like completely changed the entire story and said, no, this is not the group's story, but this the new story which I'm narrating is the story, and she got recommended. However, based on the coaching which Apurwa and I have received from the retired officers, they completely say not to do this because like if you see the pattern of the organization you are joining, the organization expects you to work in a team and to follow what the leader says, right? So now
Exactly.
the only problem here was that it could be there are two things. Okay, there's only guesswork which can happen here because if we see it from rational point of view, like from a common man's point of view, actually I would say, then probably this is not the right approach. But she might have shown some other traits, other OLQs in her, like the three stage process, the like the GTO, the IO, and the what do you say, the psych, where there might have been some traits in her personality based on which she got higher marks there. And here, what might have happened was that the fact that she changed the entire story, which was not the actual story of the group, and probably the fact that nobody objected to it, right, could have given her more marks. Could. Now there's a we can only do the guesswork here, right? Because the person judging the situation might have like he has got the training from DIPR, and based on his training, he might have seen certain traits in her, right? So it's not just one component which gives them the marks. Rather, it's a combination. So in the GTO also, the individual exercises are not like considered. Rather, it's the combination of the entire what do you say, performance over the 2 days. Apurva, you want to add something?
Yeah, as Sammanika said that, it's basically one incident is not going to recommend you or not recommend you. It is a series of tasks, and it is, a cumulative of everything which is done. But like, once the GP story has been narrated, the GTO does ask, if anybody has a different point of view or anybody would want to, give any input. So I would suggest that, you don't have to, you know and even an opinion can be kept very politely. So, you can say, yes sir, there is one thing which, could have been done differently, and I would like to add to that. So you don't say, no, I do not agree to this, and there has to be a different thing, so I would like to add to that. And then you just add to whatever you have to say. And it's just how you handle it. It's okay if you have a different opinion. You can keep a different opinion, but then you have to be very polite and very practical about how you're keeping it. So I think that's okay. But then, yeah, it's, just how you actually put it.
I think Ria has muted herself. We can move on to Amrita.
Amrita Pardasani.
Hello, I just wanted to inquire the age limit for this exam.
27.
27. Thank you, sir.
Somebody had asked whether somebody appearing for the first time will get a preference or not. There are pros and cons of both things. The fact that you're a fresher, you don't know about those obstacles and what is going to happen, gives you the advantage as a performer, because you can have your fresh approach, and like you don't know what is going to happen. So whatever comes as a surprise in front of you, you give your best there. The iska disadvantage with respect to repeaters is that because we are already aware of what next we are going to face, we actually end up having certain kinds of preconceived notions which they do not prefer, and that's why you see a lot of like repeaters or previously recommended people also getting screened out and conference out, right? That's the only advantage. The other advantage, if you see the bowl from the other half side, then the fact that somebody else knows things better, like they have done it prior to you, might know, have a better approach. So their expectations from repeaters is much more than the fresher. That's the only difference. It's not from your side but from their side.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Apurva, ma'am, do you have any closing remarks? I think we are done with all the questions.
Okay, nothing. All the best. And I would suggest that, keep working on yourself. Be very patient. Do not give up on, if you set your goal, keep going for it, even if it means a lot of setbacks. And, that is what is going to make you stronger and going to give you a lot of experiences. And this, I'm, coming from my personal experience, I've been trying for 2 years, and getting merit out is as difficult as getting conference out to screen out. So I'm still not giving now, up on that hope. So, and everybody just be patient and keep trying, and good luck. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Sammanika, ma'am, any closing remarks from your side before we move towards the end of the session?
Apurwa has been recommended 4 times. I've been recommended only once. So like even I get to learn a lot from her from every session. So all the best to all the participants. There were more than 180. I'm extremely happy that almost 160 plus were there throughout like 1.5 hours. And I really hope like most of you make it. And whether or not, just come back and share us your feedback about the session and about your SSBs also. We'll be more than happy to hear from you. We both are available on LinkedIn, so if you face any challenges, you can like come and ask your queries. The session, like the conversation which we both had done in the past, and in case any one of you have missed this part, then you can check the video on IGTV and like go through it again. Write down all your notes, important notes, whatever you think is relevant. I've done few more sessions with other people, other recommended candidates also, so you can take their inputs also, and have your own personal approach. Like at the end of the day, it's the test of your personality. They are not checking your knowledge. They are not testing you based on आपको कितना law आता है, or like whether you know everything, right? So all they are looking for is somebody whom they can train, whom they consider to be fit enough to wear that uniform. So all the very best, and we really hope to see most of you in olive greens, blues, and whites.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
I want to ask one question. That how much minimum height is required for Indian Army officer for female?
Please check the guidelines. Please check the UPSC guidelines and the call application letter. All these medical fitness details are there. So we wouldn't remember all of that.
But roughly, I think it is 142 or 143, if I'm not wrong. Roughly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Welcome.
Okay, so I think we have come to an end of the session.
Thank you so much, Society, for inviting us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
We thank you so much. We thank you, ma'am, for coming on a Sunday evening, sitting down with us and having this wonderful conversation. I request all the attendees to fill the form. There is a form link has been shared. Fill that feedback form. On the basis of that, we will give you certificates. And we now finally move towards the end of the session. I ask Pritha to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Shubh. Good evening, everyone. I am Pritha, and on behalf of Food Welfare Society, I am here to present the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our speakers, Ms. Sammanika Rawat and Ms. Apurwa Shah, for enlightening us with their knowledge. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. I am pretty sure that the valuable insight that ma'am gave us will definitely help us in our future. Once again, I would like to thank both of our speakers for taking out time from their busy schedule and enlightening us with their knowledge. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank our President, Mr. Abhinav Srivastava, and General Secretary, Mr. Akhtar Hussain, for encouraging us to organize this webinar session. I want to thank the members of the organizing committee, namely Asma, Shreya, Siddhantika, Nishtha, Muskan, Anamta, Sonali, and Ayush, who really worked hard to make this event successful. Lastly, I would like to thank all the participants present here for their active participation and for making this webinar a success. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.